All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Um,
Hello.
it's so good to connect with you guys, and thank you for taking the time out on this, which should be a relaxing week for us, but there's too many hot topics happening out in the community. And so I want to welcome Vernon Jones Jr. and Dr. Annette Sills-Brown. Welcome to
Hello.
my show, my Facebook Live. I am really looking forward to having a conversation with you two about what's happening in Denver Public Schools. But before we start, I'm going to just share a little bit of your bios because there's some people who are watching who don't know you. So I'm going to share a little bit about you. So Vernon began his career in education as a vocal music and student leadership teacher at Denver's Manual High School. It was Manual High School that his passion for equitable transformation in education through intentional life-giving policies and practices driven by deep, healthy relationships with people has sparked and the revolution born. In addition to Manual, Vernon spent time learning and leading at Omar D. Blair Charter School, which is a K-8 school in Denver. You were born at Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center, and
Wow.
you are a proud native, having grown up in Northeast Denver and Southeast Aurora. And your family has lived in the Northeast Denver area for 20 years. And your extended family has been in Northeast Denver since the 1960s. You're married to the amazing Jamie, who we love. And you're the proud parents of the fabulous five: Savannah, Nathan, Caleb, Lily, and Brooklyn. And you also have 3 dogs: Max, Coco, and Zeus. And side note, had the pleasure of being a teacher of your daughter, Savannah, who is an amazing musician. And she goes to my alma mater, TCU, and she is a horned frog, and I am a horned frog. And so, of course, I remember when you were making decisions about what college she was going to, I was like, TCU. So you currently are Executive Director in the Northeast Area Zone, which is made up of Montclair, Swigert, Willow, McAuliffe International, and McAuliffe Manual, and Northfield. And your goal is to abolish inequities and bring about an excellent education for every child in Northeast Denver. So welcome, Vernon Jones Jr.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and then my beloved Dr. Annette Sills-Brown is the Executive Director for the EduCtr, which is the Education Center, which is a nonprofit 501c3 organization founded in 1988 to provide educational outreach to homeless and transitional housing parents and children. The EduCtr is focused all year long on educating families and individuals who are struggling academically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. And with the help of donors, you're able to deliver the food of academic hope. I love that phrase. Restoration, respect, and integrity back to many of our adult learners, parents, and students through academic preparation, classroom preparation, and employment training placement for educators, individualized mentoring programs during the summer for youth, and life skills guidance for students and their parents as educators who believe in second and third chances. God has blessed us richly through the giving of others so that we can in turn offer something of substance that has the power to change lives for a lifetime. Okay, welcome, Dr. Annette.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I don't know how the combination of years. How many years do you have in total, Vernon, in education?
I think we're going to tell our age, right?
No, not your age. Your years.
Save us, please.
Right. I'm going on 20.
Going on 20?
Yeah.
Okay, and Dr. Sills?
I think, I have you beat. I think I have about 25, 26. And my husband has over 30.
Okay, so, and this is my 27th year. Okay. I cannot, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't start out in education. I started out in the medical field first.
Okay, that explains, because I'm like,
that's 10 years. That's a 10-year gap. Yeah, that's a 10-year gap.
Okay, so we have over 70 years of education experience. We all have been or currently are employed by Denver Public Schools. And so I told you guys we were going to have a raw conversation, and the goal is by the end of this, we want to provide our ideas and our thoughts of solutions, because we are actually education experts. Vernon and I have both have experience building principles and being in the classroom. And I know, Annette, you've worked in central office for a time.
Yes.
So why don't we dig in for those people who do not know what's been going on? Okay, so recently,
Can we give it a caveat? We are
yes.
education experts outside of a pandemic. It's all new.
Yes.
This
Yes,
is
I mean,
all brand new territory and turf for everyone. So much grace for principals, teachers, board members, everybody, parents, because this is a different world that we're operating in right now.
absolutely.
It is.
So over the past few months, we've seen a loss of 3 superintendents of major school districts: Jeffco, Douglas County, and now, sadly, Denver Public Schools. For those people who may not be aware, Susana Cordova is someone who I respected and have a lot of appreciation and admiration for. She is a Denver native, born and raised and grew up here, and was a teacher, an administrator, and worked her way up to become our superintendent. And after only 2 years is leaving Denver Public Schools, which is leaving a huge hole in our district. So my first question out of the gate is, like, how did we get here?
How did we get where?
Where we've lost our superintendent, where we've got, for the reasons around the conversation around her, it has a lot to do with inequities and the conversations around racial injustices and things like that. So, like, how did we get to the point where we finally got a woman of color as the superintendent of schools who seemed to have checked all the boxes, right, of what we were looking for, and now she's leaving?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, that's a loaded question. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that we can pinpoint that is a problem, but I want to sort of focus on, usually a problem in education comes from people not listening. And I feel that from the time Evie Dennis was superintendent until now, the gap in between says a lot about who Denver Public Schools is and how they came to be who they are now. And so I feel like that there's something missing, and that missing piece is that no matter how much we try to talk to them about the inequities of in the school district, nobody would really listen. They want to put a program together. They want to add another thing. They want to say, yeah, I understand your problem. I understand your situation, but not really listen to the problems. And that's where I'm coming from. Why haven't we had people who really listen to the problems? Dr. Bailey has brought her evaluation to them. Nobody's listening. Nobody's listening to what's actually happening. And I'm on the outside now looking in, and I see the same thing. It's business as usual. It's the same problems, the same situation, and it's not changing. Even when they bring in other people, it still does not change. Yeah. It's like it's the systemic issues that we deal with, but also nobody's coming in saying, hey, we're going to look in a whole different direction, and we're going to take care of these problems that exist within this organization.
Annette, that's a good take too, because if you look at the bookends and you look at Dr. Dennis, and then you look at Susana, Dr. Cordova, and you say from 1990 is when Dr. Dennis started as superintendent, and then you look at Susana leaving in 2020. That's 30 years, right? So what has been the 30-year landscape of education in Denver, right? From the 90s until now. And that's a great, you saying that sparked that in me, and to say, you're right. I mean, in 95, you got Dr. Sharon Bailey, her first, she was on the board during Dennis's tenure as superintendent. And as she was coming off the board, she writes the Bailey Report, which was the initial, hello,
Wake up.
wake up. Something's not happening right for Black students. Something's not happening for
Black teachers.
Black teachers, right? So 95, you hear that, right? And you kind of, between that 95 clarion call from Dr. Bailey until you see Susanna, again, a woman, again, both of these caused by female
Women of color.
right? Women of color. Then you see 21 years later in 2016, Susanna asked for the Bailey report, for Bailey to go and do another examination of where we are 21 years later from the Bailey resolution. And guess what the Bailey report says? Hey, nothing's changed. Right? And so then you look at two female superintendents.
Right.
And in between them, all of the superintendents, I'm going to let you guess, just happen to be
white males.
Oh my goodness.
White males.
Were you part of Dr. Bailey's research? Were you one of the?
I think I don't think anybody was supposed to. You're not supposed to know who's part of the research.
Oh, okay.
But I think
broke so many, because I've told people I
Yeah.
personally, I don't have a problem telling people that I did a one-on-one with Dr. Bailey.
I think every Black person who was in the district at the time, in between the windows she did her research, we are either directly or indirectly talked about in the research. I will say that for all of us. But you think about that, 30 years, to your point, Dr. Brown, 30 years, two ladies, in 30 years in between them, and we are here talking about some of the same status quo stuff that Dr. Bailey warned us about in 1995. Some of the same stuff that Susanna was fighting for here in 2020. And it's been 30 years.
Right.
Just in between those two pillars. And how did we get here? That's how we got here. We got here from, and I think that was a great point to go back to Dennis, because if you go back to Dennis, we were coming at the end of busing, right? Busing ends in 1995.
Yes.
So then when busing ended in 1995, we saw white flight, we saw resources leave some of the urban schools. Priscilla and I, we met at Manual, and you think about that community and how resources had been pulled from, and you had created these urban places of education that had limited resources, right? Because of white flight. Right. So I think that's
a great some redistricting also, because Park Hill took on a whole different face, is what I'm talking about. Park Hill, some of the Whittier, some of those areas that they knew were going to be invaded and taken over. And so once they did, then they created the schools to support the community.
Right.
And still left the Black folks out.
Yeah.
And who can really do that with an honest heart? And this is where I have a problem. You have people on the board and people who are in Denver Public Schools who say that they're concerned about all children, but somehow forget that we're watching, we're looking, you just gave incredible statistics about what transpired in the past as opposed to today, and who's not looking at that? Right. Our community is watching, our community is looking, and we saw these things happen and we explained them. They should have it in the history of Denver Public Schools. And that history says to us, we will not support the African American community. We will not do that. The home builders come in and they took over that whole area in Green Valley Ranch, sold homes to African Americans too, but still did not have a comprehensive high school in that area. Kids have to go way across town in Mount Bello, way across town to TJ and to George and to East to go to school, to comprehensive high school. They can't even play sports at most of those high schools.
Right.
So you know what's going to happen if you can't play sports, don't have after school programs. What's going to happen with our kids?
Right. Right.
They're going to get involved in other things that they should not be involved in, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be educational.
Yeah, Priscilla was worried that we weren't going to talk enough. I think she's going to have to talk too much.
Oh, I forgot about her. Is she still on?
Yes.
No, okay, so we cover a lot. That's okay. Look, I have all night. We can talk about this all night. So there are a lot of stakeholders, right? You've got parents,
Yes, right.
you have educators, you have school board elected officials. Now we've got mayors. I mean, this is not DC. I was like, wow, the mayors, like, we don't have a system where the mayors
control those.
Right? And I was like, wow. There are a lot of stakeholders involved in this conversation. So when we talk about, like, I like to use the word triage, like, how do all these different parts of who's responsible, like, and who's responsible for what in creating the problem, and then who's going to be responsible for fixing the problem. And you're right. You know, Vernon actually hired me. He was the administrator, assistant principal at Manual, who the minute I walked in the door, I don't know if you remember this, I literally walked through the door and you like grabbed me and I'm like, you interview. Like, and I think Fernando was there too. Was Fernando there? Yeah. So you and Fernando were like, get her hired, right?
Yeah.
And
one
so
of the best decisions ever. And she's taught my daughter, she's taught my nephew. My nephew loves the
So you benefited from
we know quality when we see it.
Well, I mean, because we know children learn better when they see someone that looks like them. And it's the same as an educator. When I see a leader, in this case, two really strong Black male administrators who are academics. For me, as a Black woman, to walk into that environment, it was like, wow, like, because I have so much respect for men and for men in education, and especially for Black men, because we just don't see that many. When I was a teacher at George Washington High School, I remember walking in, I had a Black male principal. I worked with many, many Black male teachers who that was the time of my life where I can say I worked with some of the smartest educators. And over time, every year that went by, there were fewer and fewer and fewer. You see them walk out the door, right? And so here
that issue at George, that's a whole nother story right there. It's gonna take about 2 or 3 Facebook.
Yeah, I saw Annette's eyebrow twitch. I was like, oh no.
I know. I said, please.
So, okay, so what are some of the it's so broad. Okay, so we're just gonna open up, we're just gonna throw things out and see what sticks. Like, let's triage the problem. Okay, what are some of the things in your mind? And now, Vernon, you have this opportunity to make a difference in a small part of Denver. How do we tackle this issue of education equities? And I will say this as a precursor, like, so yes, academic performance has been increasing, but so has the achievement gap. Like, see which way my camera's facing. So yeah, but it's going like this. So the gap has been getting wider and wider, even though performance is getting a little bit better. And how do we have a system where we're graduating so many students, but yet they're not proficient in literacy and they're not proficient in math, right? When you look at that. Okay, so go, Vernon.
Yeah, no, you're bringing the fire. I think we have to be honest with ourselves. So I have a foundational belief that you cannot deliver equity if you do not believe in equality.
That's right.
And I believe that you do not serve people equitably if you look at them and you do not if you believe that they're less than, if you believe that they can't learn, if you believe that their zip code means that they're tracked towards prison, or if you believe that they're tracked towards poverty, I don't think you can deliver equity. And I don't want to say I know you can't deliver equity. So I think the real conversation that we have to have in education is that when Black and brown kids, when poor kids show up to their schools, do the people in front of them believe in those kids just like they would a rich white kid that shows up in the school, right? And if the answer is no, where we start first is we got the wrong people in front of our kids, right?
Right.
But everybody would
Right.
say, okay, well then get new teachers. Well, that's easier said than done, right? Because we know the ecosystem, we know the teacher preparation programs are not preparing people to believe in Black kids. They're still conditioned
Right.
based on
Right.
what the
Or
preparation.
just to think outside the box. Just
Yeah.
think differently. We have to think differently now. I believe that white teachers can teach Black and brown kids. However, and this is what I've always told my white colleagues, however, there comes a time when you have to change your thinking, your focus, your direction, how you deliver the message of educational hope. There has to be a change. There has to be a change in them. And if you're not being effective, then this is not the job for you.
Right.
So you have to either change or you get out of the system,
Yeah, and I want to go to
because you're
Priscilla's
just
point.
making the system worse.
Yeah, and go to Priscilla's point, how we felt when we were all together at Manual. Like even seeing her, and I can name some of the other Black teachers, Black and brown teachers that were there with me. I got them all in my head. I'm like, there was an energy that we had being around each other because it was not the norm, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
this many Black folks in one space, and we about to do something, right? We like, who's calling the police on us, right?
This
Right?
sounds like the time we were having a meet. We were Dr. Joseph and it was a few of us in the central office, and we were just talking, just joking around. You know how we get together.
Yeah.
We're talking and we're talking loud and we're laughing, and everybody, all the white educators are coming by saying, "What's happening? What's going on, you guys? What's going on?" And we're just enjoying being able to talk intellectually to each other without that, nobody really came around until we got loud.
Right.
When we got loud, then it became a whole nother issue. They thought we were doing something that they were not connected to. And that's sort of what happens with the school system.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 or 3 Blacks in the school, teachers, and we try to come together for any reason, what was that meeting about that you all had? It's crazy. It's just the craziest thing.
Yeah, to Priscilla's point, I think the first step that in my new role, and I told y'all it took all of God to get me back to the space after, as we talked off camera, going through what I went through in my own DPS experience, and feeling like, I had to grapple with, do I want to subject myself to that again? Do I want to go through that again? And I had to evaluate this job opportunity through that lens of pain, of hurt. And then as I got past the pain and the hurt, I learned that the pain and the hurt had prepared me, right? It had prepared me for what I needed to do, right? That's how God works, right? Happy about that, right? And so when I took on this job, as you said, Priscilla, to really impact a small part of Northeast Denver, and I want that part to grow. Let me be very transparent. I want that part to grow is because I know what my 5 kids have gone through. I know what the kids that I have served have gone through. And I know the things that we have to get out of the way. And those are not just in school things. So I'm very much a systems thinker, right? One who believes that it's about the parts to improve the whole, not just one single part. And I think what we do a lot in education,
I love that.
Right? What we do in education is we just focus on one part, the school, or when we're doing a leap, the classroom, the teacher, right? and we forget about all the other parts that impact the whole, right? And so my approach is a very much a systems approach to say, let me evaluate everything that impacts what goes on in the life of a student, in the life of a family, in the life of an educator, in the life of our school, and see if those things are all healthy inputs. Are those things contributing to our success, or are they cancerous? Are they eroding our success? And I think that's what our problem is that we got a lot of these things that are eroding our success that we're not paying attention to because we're worried about other stuff over here that doesn't really matter, right? We're worried about something that doesn't really
Right.
matter. And so
Right.
I really believe that our approach is to step back and to control the thing that we can control the most, and that's yourself. Right? I used to tell folks at Manual that we have to become a we, but in order for us to become a healthy we, you got to be a healthy me, right? Because
That's right.
a me that is not healthy can never contribute to a healthy we. And so in education, we have to become a we. Like this right here, this brain power on this call, we're a healthy we. We talk, we grapple with so many different things. Priscilla and I have seen eye to eye on some things. Other times, like I'll call her and say, "What is DCTA thinking right now?" She's like, "Vernon," right? And we'll go back and forth, right? But we are building a healthy we with that grappling. And I think we're missing that in education right now. We're missing that with leaders who don't know how to dialogue, leaders who don't understand that to be a neighbor does not mean that you have to agree, but it just means you're a neighbor, right? And so I think coming together to dialogue and to talk about where do we want to go, that goes back to my belief about equality and equity. Do we really want to get to the same place? Do you really want 100% of kids reading at or above grade level? Those are the real questions we have to ask, and not just to the school. We have to ask that to the city. We have to ask that to the state.
Exactly.
We have to ask that to business owners. We have to ask that to parents. Do you really want 100% of kids reading? And if we do,
all the stakeholders.
Yes. And if we do, then the system has got to get working.
Right. I want to tag on to that, Vernon, because there seems to be a lot of confusion and the conversation that's happening out in the community with that op-ed that came out in Westward seems to be pointing a lot of blame to the school board members. And obviously we know that the school board is
what op-ed are you talking about? No,
Westward. You know, I'm so like, I'm such a teacher. I'm like, I'll explain it to you.
He got you.
When I say the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got the union, which I am a member of. I was an executive. I was treasurer for DCTA, secretary for DCTA. I've been involved in building leadership. And that doesn't mean that I don't have my critiques and criticisms. I have expressed, everybody who knows me, because I have a lot of followers who know that I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I call myself a Frederick Douglass Republican, and everybody knows I'm a conservative and my voice matters. Like everybody's voice matters, okay? So I do speak up when I don't think a decision is a good decision in the union, but I do have a lot of respect for my educator brothers and sisters. Okay, so I just want to like lay that out there, that I don't believe that we as an organization have been guiltless in our participation in this journey, and where our focus has been. I have said this over and over again. We need to get back to really focusing on pedagogy and instruction and teacher development in the teachers union. I think we've gotten so distracted. I feel like the school board currently has become so distracted about social justice issues. I mean, we have teachers in COVID who don't know how to write an objective. They don't know how to write a unit plan. Like they're coming, they don't know, like we have no plan for reopening schools. The only thing we're talking about is when we're gonna close schools, but nobody's talking about what's the plan for reopening schools. And I have a big problem with that, because we have parents and students who want to be in the building. We know that the children who suffer the most during COVID right now are low income, Black and brown, multilingual students who are, and special needs, okay? All of these students.
And those with disabilities.
Yes, right.
Have not had have not had their IEPs done.
Yeah, so the superintendent is responsible to the board. Right. But if the superintendent does not have clear directions and clear metrics, how can they be evaluated? How do they know what is expected of them? And I will say this publicly, because I've said it to so many people offline, that to see Susanna get the lowest scores in equity, knowing my equity experience with her and how it was like for the first time in 27 years, I had a superintendent at the highest level who responded to me every time, just like an immediate response. When I went to her with an issue, she took care of it for me. She was always kind. And I had so much, I have so much respect for her because she's a fellow educator and has been in all levels of education. And so, you know, what are your thoughts around this criticism of the school board being distracted with so many issues that now we, you know, we have a superintendent who's leaving?
Annette, you want to take that first? Because, you know.
Well, I think I might want to take it first. You might need a couple of hours for that.
I just threw a grenade in the room, I know.
I want to come from a different standpoint, other than a teacher, other than an administrator. I want to look from the lens of I was a part of the union. I was the chairperson for the Black Caucus. I supported Black teachers. And I had several meetings with the board members. I would do one-on-ones with the board members. And one of the things that I found out is that the board members, their focus has always been on their area, just their area. I never saw, and this extends a number of years, not just 2 or 3 years, but I saw board members being the same. The ones who, let's say if they had, I'll just give an example, Far Northeast was their area. That board member that had Far Northeast still dealt with the same struggles that they had 20 years prior. Same issues that they were dealing with that never got resolved. Board members that were in the area of George Washington High School. Piece of cake. Schools doing well, all the elementary schools doing well, fought to keep it that way. And that was their main focus. When I was asking about comprehensive high schools for the Northeast Denver and the far Northeast, they were saying, what do you mean by comprehensive high school? What do you mean? They just could not comprehend, just like Pastor Vernon was saying, they can't comprehend what is needed or what we need for our schools in those areas. For some reason, they can't stomach the idea that we can have a comprehensive high school. We can have a school that supports African Americans. And the board members continue to perpetrate this concept, and all it does is to keep us stagnant and keep the school district stagnant. Their focus is not on keeping good teachers, quality teachers, or even using the teachers that have retired and have them come back and to focus on issues of new teacher inequities. Because those new teachers come in and all they want is a job. They want their student loans paid off and things like that. But it's like the school board, and this is just a reflection on the past. The school board has not changed. And the times that I have had an opportunity to go and speak to the school board, I say it's business as usual.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that you continue to do the same thing. You have new faces, but the same ideas, the same concept. I'm not doing anything, or I'll do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Right. I will add to your question, Priscilla. Again, going back to system things, I do believe that, what you said was just perfect. I mean, I think that we can be distracted, right? by everything that's not our business, right?
Right.
And I should say not our, but I should say our purpose, right?
Mhm.
We can be distracted by everything that's not our purpose, right? That as a principal, as a school leader, I understood that my job was ABC, right? And I knew that in order for my school to be effective, I had to do ABC well. And I had teachers who did DEF,
Mm.
right? And I had students who did GHI, right? And then I had parents who did JKL, right? And then I had, community that did MNOP, right? And then I had all this QRST. I had everybody did their part, but it was still one alphabet, right? And we all had to execute our part for it to be a successful whole, right? And I think we've lost that to some degree. For whatever reason, a lot of different reasons, because of politics, because of, personalities, because of a lot of different things. But I do think that there's opportunity for this existing board, because I've had conversations with some folks that are on on the current board of DPS, and I really do believe that if Dr. Olson, for example, she's a career teacher. She could be here with us with her 30 plus years of education. She understands what does it mean to your point, write an objective, right? She understands what it means to backwards plan. She understands what it means to scaffold. She understands what it means to differentiate. She understands all of that stuff, right? She can do all that, right? Her role now is not that. Her role now is governance, right?
Right.
Her role now is to lead the school board by governing some fiscal responsibility, right? They have some fiduciary responsibilities to make sure that we're handling the money that we're supposed to be handling. And they have one employee, right? I work for a charter board. My charter board, when I worked for them, they had one employee, right? It was the executive director. The board that I work for now, they have one employee, executive director. Their entire focus is helping me to
Be
do my
successful.
job well, so
Mm-hmm.
that everybody else on the team can do their job well, right? It is the goal of a board to say our one employee is going to be the best supported employee so that they can be a conduit through which other people can flourish. The last thing you want to do as a board is to stifle a superintendent if yeah, period. Let me just stop there. You don't want to stifle a superintendent, because if they were a superintendent that you didn't agree with, part of your job as a board is to then get rid of that person, right? That is part of your responsibility, is to evaluate, right? Based on the goals that have been set, based on the performance timelines that have been set. And if the goals have not been achieved in the performance timeline that has been set, you also have the responsibility as a board to say, sorry, but this is not working out. Same way a school leader works. Same way, So I do think, Priscilla, to your point, I agree with you 100%. I think we have become distracted, but I think one of the things that distracts us is our scapegoating. Like, we're always looking for somebody to blame.
Right.
Mhm.
Who else is at fault? Oh, it's the parents. They don't want to come to back to school night. Oh, it's the kids. They don't want to do their homework. Oh, it's the teachers. They don't want to work extra hours. Oh, it's the administrator. Like, if you think about it, we hear a lot of scapegoating and not enough solutions, right? When if everybody, again, in the ecosystem would pause and say, how can I be a better school leader? How can I be a better teacher? I love that. How can my pedagogy get better? And as a student, how can I be a better student? As a parent, I mean, if everybody in the ecosystem was about reflecting and then improving for the benefit of the whole, we'd be at a different place. But that's not where we're at.
Okay, well, that's a great segue. So let's throw out some ideas of things that could fix the problem that we've been seeing in the education ecosystem of Denver, and some things we'd like to see, some qualities we'd like to see in the next superintendent. I know, as someone who's currently in the classroom teaching, where I'm at in my career, I'm in my third decade. So what I need looks totally different than a first, second, or third year teacher who's probationary. And the supports that I expect to see and the opportunities I expect to see look totally different. And I would like to see, as far as a union member and a classroom teacher, I would like to see our organization do a better job differentiating how we support teachers in the different stages of their career. Okay. And, we pay a lot of money every month. It's a lot of money that I am paying to be a part of this organization.
Right.
And so I want to see my dues dollars go towards supporting and expanding and growing master teachers. Yeah. And what does that look like? If every single one of our classroom teachers was a master teacher, that would take care of a lot of the issues. You hinted on, you didn't say it, but what you basically were saying, we need to have culturally responsive educators in the classroom. And what does that look like? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a certain color. Like, and y'all know my family is the rainbow, and so is yours, right? Like, my family is the rainbow, but everybody in my family understands the heart of how we treat other human beings and how we treat children and how we communicate and grow. And so I would like to see the teachers union refocus, because I was on the executive board when we sat down and had a retreat and outlined our vision and mission. And then I'm like, what happened to our vision and mission? Because what I'm seeing right now does not reflect what I contributed to that conversation. And so we need to refocus, get back in our lane as teachers, and start to deliver culturally responsive, rigorous education for our students. And now I'm going to give you the baton. Who wants to take it next?
I want to say we get it too. This is what you just said is like power, right? But what the tendency is in the ecosystem right now is to scapegoat that by saying, but it's COVID, right? Priscilla, that's a high expectation during COVID, right? And my problem is that we always find a COVID, right? Rather than do the things that need to get done, especially for Black children, especially for poor children, right? We always find a COVID. And then, again, going back to how this started, in that 30-year window that you talked to, Dr. Sills-Brown, everybody's always found an excuse about why we can't do the things that Priscilla just talked about on so many levels. And we have to stop finding those excuses. We need to understand that a kid who does not read by third grade, a kid who's not reading, who comes to ninth grade. When I was at Manual, 85% of our kids were coming in at third and fourth grade level. These were ninth grade kids who were coming in. We were taking literacy tests when they first came in, third and fourth grade level. Now, who said that was okay? That's educational malpractice that happened within that 30-year window that we talked about at the beginning. We have to stop kicking the responsibility down the road, hoping that somebody else will take care of it. And we've got to own it and say, look, if we've got a mission and a vision that we've committed to, we've got to live that thing out, even though there are storms, even though there are struggles, even though there are hardships. We still have to be focused on who we are expected to be. The 4,700 kids that are in my zone are not saying, okay, yeah, Mr. Jones, you and the teachers and you and the school principals can take some time off and not be concerned about high quality instruction for us because of COVID. They're saying, hey, no, our futures still matter today, right? Even if you got to do it on remote learning, even if you got to figure out a hybrid model, those kids are still saying, Mr. Jones, we expect you to still do your job because we still matter, no matter the circumstances. And so, Priscilla, I love that. I love what you're saying there, is because we can't back down from the adults that we're supposed to be because kids are counting on us.
Right. Yes.
94,000 kids are counting on us to be the adults that we are supposed to be. And this is not the time for us to back down.
Annette.
So I want a superintendent.
Sorry, go ahead, Vernon. Go ahead.
So I want a superintendent that is going to lead that charge. This says, look, ladies and gentlemen, let's think outside the box. Let's be innovative. Let's continue to sharpen our craft. Let's continue to be who we know that our students and families need us to be. And I love, again, Priscilla, I love the framing you continue to give. And let's do our part very much interdependent on the other parts, right? I want to see that. I want to see that kind of world where teachers are getting great, leaders are getting great, students are getting great, and all of the other parts that support that greatness are equally getting great. And yeah, that's the kind of leader that I'm looking for, who can lead an ecosystem of greatness and not just a part of greatness.
Yes. I guess I'm gonna really try to wear my Christian hat here. Uh,
Please, yes. Yeah.
because I have a kind of different focus when it comes to who should be the superintendent and what that person should do. Because right now we need somebody that is really a strong person, that has a, not a jellyback person. We need somebody that's going to come in and they're going to bulldoze this whole system, tear it down, and start all over again if they need to. Because we need someone that is concerned about kids, concerned about their employers, and their employers are our parents. The parents are the ones that they should highly respect, but they don't. The parents should be the ones that they should be accountable to. And I mean the board and the superintendent. They should be accountable to the parents. They're not accountable to the parents. Our parents, African-American parents, get mad. We get mad. Oh my God. We get attitudes, but we're concerned about our kids learning. And there used to be a time when I was growing up that I had predominantly all Black teachers. And those teachers knew my parents. They lived in the neighborhood. We had all of that going on. We don't have that anymore. And our concern for the voice of the parent is not getting to the right ears. And we have to have somebody speaking for the parent, speaking for the Black and the brown children, and it ignite those parents to understand that you have a right. Education is a civil right. You have a right to education for your children, for your family, for each and one of your kids, whether they're on the IEP, whether they're, I don't want to be, I want to say it the proper way. And that is, even if they have disabilities, if they have any type of handicap, because there's such a disparity when it comes to handicapped children.
So Dr. Sills-Brown, I want to say that's to the 100%, right? Like if
Yes.
you're really managing to the 100%, that
Right.
means all the kids, no matter. So you need leadership that really believes in the 100%. Now,
believes in it. Yes.
The Denver Plan 2020 goals only said 80%.
Right.
Okay. So let me tell you what, I have 5 kids, and it's easy math for me. So there's Savannah, Nathan, Caleb, Lily, Brooklyn. And so 80% would mean that I would have to choose one of my kids to be failed. And as a dad,
Right.
guess what? That's not
acceptable.
That's not acceptable. That's not a reasonable choice. And if we look at current data is saying we're just hovering at 60%, right? So that means that 2 of my kids right now are being failed the way we are doing business as usual. So there's no way that 3 out of 5 of my kids are not going to be successful because I do not have a couch that they can stay on.
Right.
In their 30s and their 40s. So
that's right.
I need all 5 of them to be successful. And so I need district leadership from the superintendent, senior level staff, folks like me who work in zones, folks who run traditional schools, folks who run charter schools, folks who run magnet schools, folks who run.
And see, that's why I'm saying bulldoze the whole system. Bulldoze the whole system. It didn't work. It hasn't worked.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this one. Whoever
goes in there and they're trying to make those significant changes is going. They're going to try to railroad them.
And when you're saying
try to force them to confine in that system, to conform into that system, and that person is going to leave in 2 years. Right. They're not going to want to deal with that. So we have a
Right,
system
and
that
so-
is broken, that is it is it's murdering our children.
Oh, yeah.
It's murdering our children. And so if we don't bulldoze it, then we're going to have issues from here on out. We're going to be still saying this in 10, 15 years, we're going to be still talking the same talk.
So when
I'm saying we can't talk the same talk. We
Yes.
can't walk the same walk. We
Right.
can't continue to pacify these people. We cannot continue to allow these people to make us think that something's going to happen when it doesn't. That's another ploy that DPS does. They will ramrod somebody to come in and say, oh, this is what's going to happen. We got it under control. We're going to take care of it. This will take place. And next thing you know, that person's moved on. Another person's moved on who spearheaded the whole thing. And where are we? In the same spot we were yesterday.
Because to your point about bulldozing, because we agree, but I'm saying the bulldozing that I want to go after is here first, right? I believe that the structures and the systems exist because they exist here first. That you believe this about Black kids, you believe this about brown kids, so you continue to perpetuate the systems that murder us. You continue to perpetuate the systems that undereducate us. You continue to perpetuate the systems that place us in school to prison pipeline. I can come in and say, no more charter schools. I can come in and say, no more magnet schools. I can come in and destroy all of the physical system, but if the mental systems are still the same, they're going to rebuild the plantation, right? So you have to come in and say, we need to bulldoze what's in your mind, what you think about us. See, you don't think we're able, you don't think we're capable. You do think that all those Black boys were really SPED designated. You really do think that all those Black boys deserve to go to the dean's office. That's the stuff I want to bulldoze. I want to bulldoze.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. I just didn't identify it as the mind.
Yeah.
But it is a systemic problem.
I want people watching to know that that's what we were saying.
Yeah, we have to be talking oranges and oranges, right?
Well, you guys are making
exactly.
good points, because for me, it doesn't matter what the name is on the outside of the school. Like we argue in education about public school, private school, homeschool, innovation school, charter school, like all these systems, right? When really that's not the issue. The issue is exactly the application of what you're saying. That's why I don't want to have that argument. Yeah, I'm a public school educator, but you know, that doesn't mean that we're doing everything right. I mean, like,
well, I think the parents have that argument. That's a parent argument. Because
no, that's a political argument too, because
it definitely is a political argument, but I think it all stemmed from the parents wanting a place to put their kids. And so then we have unions that are saying, well, you know, you're going to take jobs away from teachers. So then it becomes super political. But if we're looking at a parent standpoint, even now, we need schools that are going to teach all kids. Yeah. And if we had a school that will teach all kids, then we should not have a problem. Most educators, great educators, think that way, right?
That's right.
But parents don't think like that. Parents are thinking, I need something to change my child right now. And I'm saying the same thing about Denver Public Schools. We need something that's going to change this system, knock it down, knock the mental issues, whatever it may be, Pastor Vernon, whatever the problem that is keeping us from being a great school district, that has to go. And we need somebody with strong backbone to come in and do that. Not no lame ducks. We get a lame duck, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a serious problem.
I quoted you officially. You said, not a jellyback person.
Right.
That's what you said. So they need to put that in the job description.
They need to do that. Yes. They need to do that.
Well, you know, we've been hearing, it goes without saying, of course, we want the process to be transparent. Like, you're not telling me anything if you say, oh, we're going to have a transparent. Sure. yeah, you're going to have a transparent process of the next superintendent.
Yeah.
But also, in fairness to the superintendent, everyone that reports to her underneath her, her executive team, they need to be dedicated. Because remember when Susanna first got hired, everybody left. It was like, whoa, what happened to the executive team? Like everybody left and she had to start all over. And so he, whoever is the superintendent, needs to have a team that's also committed, because having, being an administrator, you also need to have people down below you. I think of the military, you come from a military family, I come from a military family, right? The general says this and everybody below needs to like get on board. And so I don't know if I've talked to some people about, do you think the system, the way it looks in DPS works? Because we started out with a system where it was very central office focused, right? Central office, and the board made a decision. Everybody was using the same curriculum. Everybody was doing the same thing. And then we slowly got away from that, where it's more site-based decision making. And now a lot of the people that I talk to are like, now after 10, 12, 15 years, maybe that system didn't work because of what we're seeing with the data. Like, what do you guys think about? Do you think DPS needs to go back to a more central focused decision-making system, or do you think we should just be like the Wild West and every building principal kind of just does whatever they feel is?
Again, that depends on what you want. If you want 100% of kids, then you have to do things differently. If it's about 100, and I'm not saying you don't have to take away site-based decision, but I do have to, in that instance, I do have to raise site-based accountability, right? Yeah, go the path that you believe is the right path, but understand that we are accountable for 100% of kids. And so, yes, we want Archuleta to look like Archuleta, and we want Maxwell to look like Maxwell, and we want Brownwell to look like Brownwell, and we want a Strive Prep to look like a Strive Prep. But understand that the overarching goal of the district is 100% of kids. Now, how you get there, as long as it's legal, that's up to you, right? But understand that because the overarching goal, the overarching purpose and promise of this district is 100%, we're going to give you the freedom to do it your way. But understand, we also are going to give you the accountability. Well, and before I say accountability, I always believe in holding people able before you hold them accountable. Meaning, I need to assess and make sure you are able to do. And if you're able to do, great. Yeah. Then I believe you able. Then my job is to then hold you accountable to what I already know you're able to do, right? And if we're going to give that, fine, right? I do believe that there's some instances where you do not have the leadership chops, to just let a school be off on its own, right? You've got novice leadership with a mix of novice teachers, and that is a bad formula, right? So there are going to look like you're going to have different supports at different schools and different places. But I think where you got senior leaders, senior teachers who've been in this, trust them, and support them. Give them the resources that they need, and then tell them, go get it done. And at the end of the day, we're going to talk about if you got it done or not, right? I think it's that simple, but I think we complicate it.
Yeah. I was at a meeting a few years ago where all of the APs and principals, African American, came together, had a meeting with Tom Boasberg. And the one thing that they were concerned about was autonomy. They said, we have to have autonomy. We can't have you just mandating what we must do, because we have to be accountable to the parents and to the community. And I believe that the ones that spoke up and asked for autonomy, they got it. And things start to change in their schools. Now, the ones who probably was, I can't say fearful, but concerned about their job, did not make that statement. And so when we always have to, like we say in business all the time, you have to put the monkey on the back of where the monkey's supposed to be. And if the monkey's not on the back of the person that has the problem or the situation, the board members, and we have, and also I forgot to bring this up, we have to know what the job of a board member really is for Denver Public Schools. Now I know what the job is for a board member, but really, what is their job? What are they supposed to be doing? And we need to make them accountable. We need to put that monkey on their back and make sure that they're accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. And if those schools are not doing what they're supposed to do, and we have a bunch of those that are not meeting their goals. And even with ProComp, when I was working as one of the ProComp team, ProComp, there were so many schools that were not meeting their goals. We knew that. We had statistics to show that. So who is going to take that into consideration? Who's going to bite that bullet? Who is going to be the one to take responsibility for that? Is it the superintendent? Yeah. Is it the principal? The administrator's central office? Who takes the responsibility when the kids are not learning? When a gross number of schools are not meeting expectations, academic expectations? Who's going to take that? Who's going to bite that bullet?
That's right.
Annette, we got to wind down here. And so I think what I would love to see the school board do exactly like you guys are talking about is get a plan together. Vernon and I sat next to each other at the same table when we were right at the beginning of coming up with a new plan, and then COVID hit. And I think that needs to be a priority. I don't want to get any more surveys from the teachers union asking me about my feelings. Like, stop sending me surveys asking me about my feelings about COVID. I don't want to talk anymore about masks and PPE and 6 feet, 3 feet. Like, that's yesterday's conversation. Right. I want the teachers union to work with the school board and talk about a reopening plan. How are we going to get our kids back in school? That is where we need to be focusing. And the school board, I would like to see them start to create a specific rubric for the next superintendent about the kind of job that they expect, so that it's crystal clear. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to attract, like, these other school districts have interims. Yeah. Everybody's going to be fighting to find the best superintendent in the Denver metro area. Yes. Who wants to come into a school district where there's this much dysfunction and lack of focus, where we're reading about things, we're talking about stuff that has nothing to do with educating children and raising and growing strong master teachers? Like, we need to get a focus. And I love our school board members. I have great relationships with our school board members. They have a really tough job, but it's like, I think we're hearing from the community that enough is enough. Like, we need to focus. So I'm going to give Vernon, I know you got to jump off here. Like, I'm going to let you guys close this out.
Yeah, Priscilla, I want to thank you for who you are. Thank you for how you lead. Thank you for how you transparently lead. Like, you know who Priscilla is, and I thank you for standing where you stand. You are just a person of integrity, right? A person of integrity, and I appreciate that. And I want to say, to your point about the school board, it's hard. It's a hard job. It definitely is a hard job. It is a volunteer job. Does not make sense to me that it is a volunteer job when you are talking about 94,000 kids, 15,000 employees, and over $1 billion budget. That is a hard thing just to be a volunteer over, right? And so you have to hire a great superintendent. That's why. It's a volunteer position because it's designed for you to hire a great superintendent who has a great staff, who gets the job done based on the goals that you have set as a board. So I agree with you 100%. I'm looking forward to this board casting a great vision about who we want to be. Hopefully that vision says 100% of kids, and therefore we attract a superintendent who wants to work hard with us and wants to create schools across our metro area that are serving 100% of our kids well. For me, again, my 5, there is not one of them that I would say does not deserve a high quality school. So for me, it's always my 5. And so since it's 5 for me, it's 100% of my neighbors' kids. And so that's what we got to be focused on. I appreciate everything that you said today about focusing intensely on teacher development, raising up master teachers, and recruiting. I'm going to talk to you offline, both of you offline, about some recruiting things that we got going on, recruiting goals that we've set for our zone. But we can do this. I mean, we can do this. I mean, all of the brain power that we have in this city, you know, we all interact with each other over. We can do this with our board, with the great teachers and leaders in our district. We can do this, and Denver can quickly become the premier place for education in this country. So I'm confident about that. I thank you for this time, and roll it over to my friend, the smarter Dr. Annette Sills-Brown.
Keep it brief, and Dr. Annette.
I'm going to keep it brief. I just want to thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for a job well done. This has been wonderful, great. You're such an honest person, and I like that about you, and that you're able to be bold about what you believe in. And I just want to say, one of the reasons why, well, not the reason why, but because Susanna is leaving, that is truly a sign that things are dysfunctional and things have fallen off the cliff. And we need to get a board that is going to step up and step up to the plate and see the full picture of what's going on with DPS. So I want to end it right there, because I know I could jump into something else. I'll stay right there.
Vernon has to go, because I could talk to y'all all night long, you know. It's like, sorry, I had to cut you off, because we have like great conversations offline. I just love both.
Yes, you that Harriet Tubman. You that Harriet Tubman. You
we'll do part two.
Put that gun on them.
Yes.
Part two, when they're supposed to announce an interim from what Vice President Bacon said around December 3rd.
Okay.
Right. So we should do part two in a week to say, hey, how do we feel about that? Is this the right direction that we talked about? And that would be fun.
Absolutely. Well, love you guys. Mad respect. I hope you have amazing Thanksgiving. We have so much to be thankful for. God has blessed us. We're healthy, and we're educated, and we're capable, and we are life changers. And Harriet Tubman is my hero, my hero. So all my best and love to all your families. And yes, part two to come. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.